suicidal ideations, and that's what we would call them in my facility, anyhow. And things like that. The common theme, I guess, with this day today is that it's the highest percentage for people removing themselves from the equation, so to speak, unfortunately. So people have come to call it Blue Monday, I guess, which is kind of sad. Like, like, oh, it's the saddest day of the year. Like, so people have started this campaign of doing a Brew Monday, which is just having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea with your friends and having a chat. And checking in. They're like check-in chats. It's just emphasizing the importance of checking in with your friends. And I think that that's a really, really cool way to spin that. Avo said, an appointment is hard to get. How so? Is all booked? Yeah, usually it's booked out because there's only so many doctors that can do this. So it's hard for me to get an appointment in my area for this kind of specialty. It's also not a very like widely accepted specialty, so there's not a whole lot of doctors available, period, for it. But it works. It does. um, it's the only thing that's helped me. So definitely, definitely need to make it. Nova said, I prefer the fact that January 20th is Penguin Awareness. Really? It's Penguin Awareness Day? Oh, well, that's even better. That's freaking awesome. Man, I should have wore a penguin costume. Mm. I don't know how sensitive the new mic is, too. Just FYI, so if I bonk anything or do anything goofy, let me know. Um, but it is nice. I can actually wear these headphones without getting a headache. I wore them almost all D&D stream last week and didn't get a headache. It was awesome. I was like, ah, shit, da da da. I'm guessing insurance doesn't even want to hear about it. Usually not. I think they're trying to not cover those. I'm at a point right now where I have like a payment plan with the hospital because it's taking me 10 years of testing with all my other issues um, to figure out what's going on with me. So I've been in medical because I've had so many symptoms that we couldn't trace and figure out for so long. Um, so I just kind of make payments right now. I'm gonna be calling the insurance company and like getting some of those things covered. It's just you have to fight tooth and nail with them to do that. So I need to be like, it's just another thing to tackle. The first thing I needed to tackle was my accommodations at work, which, good news, I got my work accommodation this week. I am officially a fully remote worker, and that was a fight too, but I won that one. Um, and they're not gonna make me go sit in a chair for 10 plus hours. You guys watch me during stream. I get up and down probably about 20 plus times now because I can't sit still and I can't sit right. Can't imagine trying to do that for 10 hours. But very excited for that. Good news. That was a good win. Did some car shopping over the weekend. It's looking good. It's looking good for that too. So things are looking up. I am skeptically optimistic at this point. And that's kind of the vibe I want to keep today. I think it's good. Good vibe. So yeah, what I want to do is like sometime this week, I would really love to decorate the Palea house because I keep promising that and then we keep not doing it, and I'm really like kind of itchy to sit and be creative for like many hours in a row. um, so I'd like to get that done sometime this week if I can. Like just add a bonus stream if I can. I'll see what the weekend looks like if I can get some time with the business stuff we're doing. Got a lot of things we're tackling right now. He said, hey, let's go. You can work from home. Amazing. Happy for you. Do you have your eyes on a car yet? I do, kind of. Yeah. I know exactly what I want, finally, because I've been shopping. So I finally know exactly what I'm going to get, I think. Or I have like the idea in mind for my perfect match. We'll see what happens. But I'm finding some with really low mileage, and that's kind of what I'm looking at because I'm very picky. Around 2015 is when they started putting tech in your car, like smart tech in your car, where your car can kind of like do things for you, and it has like an internal safety system, which means it can like activate the e-brake for you if you don't want it to and do different things like that. And for me, like, I don't need tech in my car. That's also the first time they started putting stuff that you can track in the cars. Like, they can track your vehicles constantly and all the data and everything. So I'm getting something prior to 2015 specifically. 2011 is what I like for the model of car that I'm gonna get, and I'm looking for something that's got like I've got one or two right now that have like 70K miles on them, I think, and then I saw one for 40K miles, but it's a lot more money than what I want to pay. But I'm trying to get something with low mileage so I don't have to buy a car again for a long time, and I can keep a car that doesn't have a bunch of tech in it that I don't want. That's essentially non-functional sometimes. Like it can be a little dangerous. My best friend just bought a brand new like 2024 vehicle, and it like turns on the safety system in traffic, like when it shouldn't be, and like on the highway sometimes and stuff. So I I'm just not messing with that right now, you know. I'm good. Um, and I'm gonna get the same model and brand that I got last time, or that I had that was in the accident, because frankly, like it saved my partner's life. Like I think personally, or it saved him a lot of harm, a lot of like it could have been very bad. Um, and really really happy he's okay. So I'm like safety wise, nailed it. You know. How was it? I've been looking at, and I highly recommend that you maybe check it out as well. A Formentor Cupra. Ooh. It's an amazing SUV with insane mileage and one of the best safety cars out there. Ooh, Formentor Cupra. All right, I'll write that down. I'm open to it. Open to it. I'm always open to research because you never know, right? There's always something out there that could be that I just don't know. Always open to that. Where are all of my pens? Okay, there's one. I had 5 pens on here. Now I can't find one. There. Because, yeah, we've been car shopping this week. But, yeah, the main reason I like the 2011s is because there are some amenities that I like too. Leather seats would be a nice improvement and an easier clean job. And the four-wheel drive, we really liked that in the last vehicle, so we want that again. I live in a place with snow, and it makes all the difference. If I lived in a spot that never snowed, I probably wouldn't be as hardcore on it, but it's so much. It really like changes the game if you're driving in the snow. But said, please check it out. It's a hybrid. Hope that's not an issue. No, not at all. I'm not. I'm happy to help with the environment if I can. And it's literally a dream. High horsepower, very comfy, and I literally cannot recommend it more. Ooh, I'm excited. I think I've seen something that's Cupra style before too, so I might like it. Sporty little thing. It's fun. It's really fun. I miss my. I had a six-speed Mazda 6 for a really long time, and it was really fun. It was a manual, and it's just you could just zip around in that thing. It was essentially a motor with plastic on it. Like that's all it is. It's just like a little bit of plastic and a motor. I like to go fast when I can. Mm. But yeah. Anyway, Brew Monday. I'm really focused. Oh. I was said, oh, Jenny calling. I'll be around. Oh, tell her we say hey. Love you. Love y'all. Thank you for coming by and saying hello. And for the car wreck. Gonna definitely check that out. That's really awesome. I'll see how long this seating position works out for me. But yeah, if y'all feel like donating, links in the at the top of the chat. I threw it up there earlier. No pressure at all. What I might do though is I might do my donation right now, um, because I set it up through them. I for once I like did the overlay and everything through, like I didn't take it myself and make it and do it through Twitch like I usually try to with charities. I did it through the Tiltify stuff. So I'm not sure if the alert's gonna work or not. So I'm almost like I should do my donation so that I know the alert works. It seems to make sense. Anyway, now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go to my own link. But yeah, I figured we could do just a little bit of mental health talk. I have a little bit of qualification to speak on things like that. I spent 5 years in behavioral health uh, facility managing it, and I spent 7 years working in behavioral health and taking my psych degree. Um, I didn't finish my psych degree, to be clear. I'm not a graduated psych degree, but I don't have a bachelor's. Um, Probably have about the information that you need for one in my brain, but I don't have it officially, so let's be clear on that. I haven't participated in my own psych research study before. Well, I've participated in the I've been, the subject of study. Shocking. um, I know, but I haven't run my own study yet or anything like that, which is a part of what you have to do towards the end there. And I was actually kind of getting towards that part for myself. Now that I think about it, I was pretty close. I've contemplated going back just so I can do something. Mm. But yeah, I digress. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of stories. I have a lot about how the system works, how it doesn't work. Um, I have a lot of education in trauma-informed care, crisis de-escalation, and I personally, speaking on our Brew Monday topic, have talked many of people down from deciding to follow through with removing themselves from the equation. It used to be my job, kind of, to keep specifically to work with that kind of ideation. There's certain mental disorders that will cause that to be a compulsion, if that makes sense. And I worked with that quite a bit when I worked with adults. And I can kind of break down what that looks like and what the signs look like. I think that's the most important educational piece. I think it's also really important to identify and say when people are going through this, for them it is incredibly, incredibly real and it should be treated as such. It's a very significant event in their life and they're feeling that for real and it needs to be taken seriously in that moment. Your job isn't to be there to argue, your job's there to listen, if that makes sense. You're there to listen, support, and try to guide and give perspective. You're not there to try to argue with somebody who's maybe considering doing something like that. Um, so there's a lot, it's a very nuanced thing to have to deal with, I think, and there's a lot we could chat about. I'm kind of willing to throw it out to what chat's comfortable with, though, because I also don't want to get too dark or too real. This could be a really triggering conversation for a lot of people, and I really don't want to upset anybody. Genuinely, I want this to be like a safe spot where we can have these chats and have it be comfortable as possible. Skip these and check out. I'm confused. Well, I'm gonna donate. Oh, it's in euros too. Well, this will be difficult for me. The Americans trying to figure the euro conversion out here. Hold on one sec. Jeez. Oh, nice. Help, train, and support a listening volunteer. That sounds lovely. Let's do that. I love that. Answer a potentially life-saving call. Let's do that too. I like that. I don't know what this transfer is going to be, but we'll do our best. Yeah, it's fine. Gift aid. No, I'm not a UK donator. So this is going to be purely me just throwing the money. Can I even donate in euros if I only have dollars? Do I need to go get euros converted so I can donate to this? Oh no. Why am I small brain sometimes? Apple said, ugh, just realized what today is. Yeah. Yeah, Inauguration Day, I believe. It's MLK Day for me. MLK wins out over that bullshit. Sorry. And our fascist indoctrination that we're currently dealing with. Sorry. Apple said, rest in peace, MLK. Rest in peace, MLK. Fought for our civil rights. The irony on this day is interesting. And Nova said, but most important, the penguins. Yes, it is Penguin Awareness Day today, too, Apple, apparently. So we are going to honor the penguins, we are going to honor MLK, and we are going to honor mental health, and fuck the orange fascist regime. And yes, I am saying that on a Bezos platform. Come for me, Bezos. What are you going to do? Take my debt? Go for it. You know? Bring it. I'm so ready, really, honestly. I have a really powerful stun gun, too. I don't know if it's legal, to be honest. I forgot, because it's by state what's legal to have on you, and I think I looked it up after I ordered it. I don't remember if it was legal. But hey, don't come near me. I got zappies. Apple said, "Aw, penguin awareness. Busy day indeed. Busy, busy. Yes." Honestly, I think an army of penguins could take down a fascist regime. We can do this. It's just everybody from Club Penguin. You form everyone, whoever was logged into Club Penguin, into an army, and you're good. Alright, well, hopefully I can donate to this, even though it's in euros. We'll find out. I love CAPTCHA questions. Like, find me the stairs. Okay. Ah, shoot, I need money. Oh, you know what's cool, though? Is because of this new headset, I can go walk into my other room and get my stuff, but I can keep talking to you guys. As a sentient voice from beyond the stream. We're all in my kitchen right now. It's crazy. It's fun, and I could also see myself forgetting that I have it on, so we'll see how that goes in the future. Boop. Got it. Nova said, Club Penguin skipped me. Really? Yeah, I kind of was on there for like a minute, and then I think it went, oh my god, Jesus. These wheels roll too easily. I keep rolling away. It's like, wee. Okay, stop it. Stop it. Said, CAPTCHA's the original AI training. Yep. Which It's like, dang, AI must not have been very good. It's a lot of the time. It's like, what? But that's awesome. I am, yeah, over the AI stuff. Faux show. And that's something too that's been like concerning mental health wise with people is just the AIs. Like people are getting better mental health support sometimes through the AI, which I think can be a good thing. Um, but it's kind of, you know, a little concerning sometimes. Because I think sometimes it's not so great, right? Like it's been not great. Okay. Alright, now I'm gonna hope that this worked. We're gonna see if this alert works. I heard a thing happen. Oh no! Why is it all the way down there? Oh no! Okay, so the alert does work. Did my first donation, sorry. I think it's kind of funky shaped because of the overlay. I just have to fix the overlay, I think. Oh, yep. Okay, I see what the problem is. Got it. We're gonna just have to deal with that being kind of over stuff, I think. Which is fine. This is the point of the campaign is for us to be here. There we go. All right. So I'm pretty sure that is how I'll be able to see the overlays, the alerts. I'm just happy that the alert's working. Honestly, that was the main thing that I was worried about. So happy that's working. And we'll just stick just the frame right there. That's a little less awkward, probably. Okay. It's just a big old frame. Big old overlay. That's alright. At least we know it works, and I messed it up on mine, so that makes me feel better. Next time if somebody decides to donate, it'll be not messed up. Look at me, I'm learning slowly. Notice that I have more conversations with ChatGPT than people. Yeah, it seems to be really developing along. What I think's hilarious is that it's like developing to like align with a lot of like collective consciousness ways of thinking and just the way that we align, as a people. I think as a humanity, it's really kind of riding that line. It's kind of creepy, but also kind of interesting. It's yeah. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I'd say at this point, but at the same time, I'm very much so a proponent of like, is it helping people? Stellar. You know, is it helping out? That's what I want to hear. Okay, so I can donate in the euros. That was completely a test, so I may actually donate more in a little bit because I wanted to do a little bit more than that. But I was just like, can I even do this? um, but yeah, I'm so glad it works. But yeah, no, if ChatGPT's working to help people, that's awesome. I think it's great. I think that's kind of the stuff we need to be using it for. Like I don't think an AI can get secondary trauma. You know, uh, which is what a lot of caretakers deal with, and frankly, what I've been going through for the past couple of years. There's a lot of stuff I've seen, read, dealt with that's pretty nasty. Um, so if you're like a highly empathetic person, which most people who get into a caring position are, that's why you get into it. um, you can end up walking out with lots of collateral trauma, essentially, like for yourself. Um, and it's really important that you take care of yourself through that. And that's why it's so important that, like, we're talking about Brew Monday, right? So you're doing check-ins with your friends, check-in chats. It's making sure you're ready to have that check-in chat is a step in that too, personally, I think. Is going like, where's my energy at today? Can I take in someone else's right now? Can I handle that? Do I have the strength to maintain the boundary between me and them right now and not feel everything for them, but be able to be there for them. I think it's good to do that check-in prior to, checking in with others. It's really important to fill your own cup, put on your own gas mask first. Have you like that's something that we like harp on. We harp on like self-care, and we're like, go have a shopping day, go have a whatever day. Sometimes self-care looks like I'm not okay today, and that's okay. And that's really important, I think, to emphasize, especially for caregivers, like these Samaritans workers that we're doing the charity for today. The things they hear, the things that they have to um, go through, essentially, like they're going through secondary trauma to some degree as well if they're not able to take care of themselves and keep that boundary up. Um, it can be detrimental to the therapeutic relationship at the end of the day. Um, so I think that, yeah, just take care of yourselves. and and take care of your people. I think community is so, so important. And we've got to like almost fight for it right now, I feel like, if that makes any sense. It feels like there's a lot of forces trying to pull us all apart, and we're all just like, no, together, togetherness, community, togetherness. And I like that too. I think that's what Brew Monday is about. It's like encouraging community and making space for people to have big feelings when they need to have them. And yeah, I think that's super important. There's a lot of like, no, don't be sad, or don't feel angry ever, or don't feel like, because those are all negative, right? We associate those with negativity. We associate them with like people having negative behaviors that are socially unacceptable, um, and all that. But I think that right there is what causes the socially unacceptable behaviors, because we have a culture of repress, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. People won't like you. Don't do that. But the feeling's still there. The emotion's still there. The energy's still there. You got to do something with it, right? The energy's got to go somewhere. Um, so I think it's important that we just kind of start framing things like it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be all of those things at once and just be there for somebody. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable, but the faster you kind of allow that feeling to pass through you, the faster you kind of go through that, so to speak, hopefully with some support there, um, the more quickly you'll be able to move through things in the future, and the more empowered you'll feel at the other end of it, is, I believe, how that process is supposed to go if you actually process the emotion and move through it. Um, but a lot of us are taught to like stop that process, right? Like, let's stop it at the front. No, just the inkling of a bad feeling. Like, oh no, I can't be like this right now, right? But maybe just taking a deep breath and letting yourself sit with it is the thing to do. And if you need help, if you need to get it out, having a healthy avenue to do that. Having somebody you can call to chat. And that's like another reason it's really important to have community, because maybe you have somebody you're comfortable talking to, right? Maybe you have like one person you're comfortable talking to. Because trust is a big thing too with a lot of people who have been traumatized, and a lot of people who are maybe going through something like this. Trust is a huge deal. So maybe you've got one person you're comfy doing that with. Okay. If you are always coming to that person, right? Always coming to them with all your problems, all your strife, all your pain, and that person's just taking it every time. After a while, that's going to do damage to that person, and just by default. Um, and that's why it's such a big deal to cast a wide net for your community, right? Like, make sure that you have resources spread a little bit and you have multiple people that you can kind of rely on for stuff like that, so that they don't get your community net, your safety net doesn't get bogged down, right? And you can be there in kind for the rest, right? It's a very reciprocal kind of feeling and relationship, um, to have with people, and like that's why it's so important to have these friend groups if you can. And I know that social isolation is just such a big thing right now. Like, I think a lot of us are scared, and a lot of us are not trusting a lot of things right now, and right for good reason. Like, there's completely like great reasons to not be trusting a whole lot right now. We've got AI that obscures information online sometimes as much as it can be wonderful for other things. It's kind of obscure in the pot a little bit. We've got our governments that are definitely not being honest with us. We've got corporations that lie to us on a repeated basis. We've got a lot of reasons to want to like shrink in, right? Let me hide. Let me, you know, it's safer this way. It's safer. And we're, as humans, safety, right? That's our Maslow's, our bottom Maslow's, which we can go over what Maslow's hierarchy is if we want. It's a good concept, I think, for everybody to have. Um, but safety is the priority for everybody right now, so we're all pulling away. But honestly, the real safety is going to be in our numbers. It's going to be in all of us collectively coming together and finding ways to support each other mutually and have those like synchronistic relationships with each other rather than parasitic ones, which is kind of what's happening right now. We have a bunch of very wealthy people that are very parasitic on us, on our society right now, not just our economy, but just our culture a little bit too, I would say. Like, it's very bad taste in my mouth, I'll just say that. Apple said, I love this take. I often do that, restrict myself from feeling offended, for example, and try to obtain thicker skin. Yeah, and if you keep turning that in on yourself, after a while, you're going to start feeling the consequences of that, right? If you're not allowing yourself a little bit of leeway, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of a give. Apple said, the isolation is real. Yes, the solitude. Yeah, exactly. The solitude feels safe right now, and I think that that's kind of what a lot of these powerful entities are banking on. We've been through this before. We've been round and round we go. I think that the people who are powerful are well educated enough to know how to manipulate psychologies and mass psychology, like sociology, all of it. Like, they know how to manipulate systems to incentivize people to do what they want, right? So we're dealing with a lot of that, and that makes us just want to like hide because it feels like you can't win, right? But I think the winning is in us staying brave and staying in communities and fighting for each other and protecting each other. Um, and that's kind of why I want to do this event. I think it's a really important thing to think about. Like, hey, how are you doing? Especially right now with the way the world is. How are you doing? Like, reaching out to a friend, going, hey, what's going on, man? Like, how you been? Even if it's just a catch up, sometimes that is enough for people to feel like accepted and loved and valued in a community. Just going, hey, how you been? Oh, my cat got out the other day. Like, I think that's nice. Apple said, very wealthy people, and most of them haven't worked a day in their life and want to become lawgivers and enter politics, etc. Yeah, it's a lot of egos out of control right now. A lot of people are power hungry. A lot of people are, of a competitive mindset, not a community mindset. And those people are going to burn themselves out and burn themselves to the ground. And we can just watch, as far as I'm concerned. Because, it happens every single time. They shot themselves in the foot already. It's already done. I think that they counted on people not being very smart, but we are. Sorry, we're a very well-educated society right now. As much as you've tried to nerf our education system, the internet is powerful, and it is a powerful source of information, and we all use it to make sure that we're informed. And we are now making that a priority because y'all have been weird about it. But you know, there's a lot of ways to fight that. Um, So does everybody know what Maslow's hierarchy is? I know I mentioned that earlier. It's a let me see. I kind of want to pull it up. Visuals help with this stuff. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a very basic concept in behavioral health, mental health. I don't think it's in the DSM-5, um, but it's pretty well accepted by most things, most everything. Let me be really clunky about this real quick. Not that one. Maybe it's this one that I want. No, I'm anxious. Well, there's you guys. You see my stream manager. Ta-da! Oh, we'll get it smaller here in a sec. We're gonna just pop a little triangle up. Quick. Alright. So, yeah, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if y'all can read it, but I'll put it over my face just to start, and I'll read through it real quick and then I'll pop back on. But the basic concept is that every human being has these needs. Nova said, "Oh, hi, us." Hi, hi. Right. Um, I threw y'all up on the screen. Put you on blast. So we've got physiological needs at the base. So the concept is that every person needs all of these things. All of these things need to be fulfilled, and you can't fulfill one layer without having the bottom layer, right? So you can't build a foundation without a foundation. So you've got to start, or you can't build a house without a foundation. So you got to start with the foundation, and your foundational needs are your physiological needs: food, water, warmth, safety. Safety is really for me, like, I think the biggest physiological need that everybody has and maintains. Like, what makes you feel safe? Having enough food, having enough water, having shelter that is consistent and safe. And honestly, having community safety, I think, a little bit too, like having people around you. I know safety needs is put on second, but I personally think that it's like one of the bigger ones for physiological as well, because of your nervous system and how that functions. Because your nervous system being on all the time means that you are in a kind of weakened state, in a sense. You're in an exhausted, fatigued state physically. So physiological needs, making sure those are met. So when you have a kid that's hungry in a house, that's already, their Maslow's are done. Like, that's it. They don't have food. That is a stressor, a constant stressor, a constant need every day that's not getting met. Period. They can't build the rest of it now, right? That's it. So think about how many people are hungry. How many people don't have enough money for food? In my country, anyway, it's quite a bit still. So that was why the like lunch programs came in, right? Because we realized, oh wait, in order for kids to actually learn and do anything, they need to be able to eat and feel full, and that's how their brains will function better. And even just, I would argue at this point, having quality food is a big thing. Access to quality food, not just sugar and garbage that's not really nutritional. Because your brain needs actual nutrients in order to function. So physiological needs need to be met. Next is safety needs and security. Safety and security, for me, I would honestly put that together with the physiological and put them at the bottom if it were me making this, but this is a very basic Maslow example. A lot of people have different iterations of this. This is the one I was taught on, which is why I picked it. But I have my own qualms with it, obviously. The safety. Safety is one of the most important things that we can have. When we are not feeling safe, our nervous system is on. And if our nervous system is on, that means our heart rate is higher. That means our stress, our cortisol levels are higher. We're dealing with adrenaline chemicals as well, pretty consistently. So what that does is a lot of things to the body over time. Your body's not meant to be in the nervous system state for a long period of time. Like your nervous system's not meant to be activated. I apologize. Your nervous system's not meant to be activated for a long period of time. It does do damage after a while. Um, to a lot of different things, perceptions, senses, just your ability to regulate stress in your body. It can eventually start to impact your hormones. Um, a lot of different things. So if your safety needs aren't met, this is why I argue it's within the physiological as well, um, then you're not able to get into a base state, like a baseline state, which is what we call it in mental health, is like getting into a baseline, which is your body's natural rhythm, so to speak. It can't flow. It can't do that. It's too disrupted by constant stress. Um, and then let's see, belongings and loves and needs. So yeah, like this is like connections and relationships and interests. So this is taking it out of the individual's needs a little bit and looking at, you know, because we have at this point in science and in psychological research figured out that human connection, like having relationships and real connection, is a physical need that we have. There are physical malformations that do happen when you don't have access to community in the brain. It's pretty crazy, actually. This is the studies on solitary confinement. If you look at those, what happens to the brain, it can be incredibly damaging. You develop things like antisocial personality disorder, where you start doing things that are just not great to people because you don't know how to feel accepted otherwise, and you don't know how to get any kind of interaction or connection with people other than through negative means. It's just seeking. It's another way of seeking connection. We in my facility we called it attachment seeking behavior. So people call it attention seeking a lot of the time with some of the behaviors, but it's really attachment seeking. It's I want to get some kind of interaction out of somebody else. I need to get some kind of reaction out of somebody else in order for me to feel connected to humanity and feel alive. That is essentially the like basis for a lot of why people do shitty things to other people. If you really want to break it down, they're trying to get that need met. They're trying to get that need for feeling like they have involvement in the community, like they exist, you know. And the only way that they get that validation or that verification is through doing things that are antisocial or negative to get those negative reactions, to feel like they've got some kind of attachment to that person. Now, whether it's negative or positive, they don't care at that point. People who have been pushed so far to this limit that they just don't care as long as they get the interaction, which is what a lot of the people that I used to work with were like. Um, So that's another way to highlight like that's such an important thing. Having multiple connections and making sure they're healthy, you know? Making sure they're healthy connections, positive connections for you. Even if you just have a friend that you talk to and all they can do is bitch, you know? Like all they do is just negative, 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 negative. Having a boundary with that friend is important for you because maybe that connection's not so positive, and taking in that much negative stress and negative energy all the time isn't going to be good for you. It's not healthy for you. Set that boundary, you know, if you got to. Nova said, the older and the more jaded I get by life, the more I realize just how inaccurate Maslow's can be in more and more cases. Yeah, yeah. Maslow's is definitely up for debate, in my opinion, as well. At least the general premises. Pretty much everything on here is accurate, but it doesn't work in this format anymore. I agree. I agree. I think that it can be like reshaped and reworked for sure. Because this is like the most basic biatch version of it too that we have right here. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't quite work in the pyramid form anymore. And things can be moved around and shifted around, you know. And let's see, what's the next one for psychological needs? Esteem needs. So prestige, feeling of accomplishment. So yeah, those feelings of like goals, like confidence. How do you build confidence, right, and self-esteem? Um, so like it's kind of like with your reward chemicals a lot too. I notice that esteem things kind of play. So, you know, if you're somebody that has low dopamine, it's harder for you to feel a whole lot of accomplishment out of doing a task, or as much accomplishment out of doing a task you don't want to do as you should. So that turns into like a vicious cycle of like feeling terrible about yourself, essentially. I can speak to that. Unfortunately, I'm ADHD high. Can't can't really finish a task, let alone, Um, so you end up, your esteem can just tank. You can end up feeling really disempowered and really down on yourself if you're not participating in things regularly that give you the feeling of accomplishment, give you that feeling of getting something done, or if you're maybe not getting the dopaminergic support that you need, which sometimes you just need that. Like a lot of overall ADHD people do need medication in order to kind of supplement their dopamine for a while sometimes until they can get enough different activities going in their life to do it for themselves. Um, you can end up really feeling down on yourself all the time. And if you're always feeling like that, you're not going to be able to feel accepted in community. You're not going to be able to feel safe, right? You're not going to be able to feel like your place in community is secure because you don't feel good about you. And that's coming out through everything else. Everything comes out through our filter. So however we're feeling about ourselves, everything that comes out of us is going to come out through that filter of how we're feeling about ourselves and that perspective. So it's really important to be able to feel good about you, you know? Apple said, so celibacy is damaging too. I wondered that about nun priests and monks. I assume they have to be celibate for whatever reason, and those who want to self-discipline. It can be. It can be denying your if let's say sex is a really big thing for your identity and it's a really big priority for you and it makes you feel empowered and it makes you feel good about yourself. It brings your self-esteem up, what have you. I am personally, I don't talk about it much on this channel, but I am personally a very sex positive person. I fully believe people should be able to explore and do whatever they like as long as they're being safe, consenting adults. And I'm pretty positive about it for myself. Mm, you know, so I think it can be a really good thing and a really healthy thing if that's a thing that's a priority for you and your identity. So if these monks or priests have their priorities actually in order, if they're actually in line with their own like belief systems within themselves, if they're aligned with like their goals, they can still feel good about themselves while being celibate because for them that's a priority. That's a success for them. Like it's all about how they're framing it, right? So everything is really about framing if we think about it. But it's for them if that's something that gives them the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling that they're doing the right thing, and they can feel good in that, then they should be all right. But it's when people are being celibate because God said so, if that makes sense, and they don't really know why they're doing it themselves, and they haven't done that internal reflection and that like seeking it within themselves, like why am I doing this? Like you really got to know you, I think, in order for things to be good for you. That makes sense. Nova said religious celibacy should have its own separate definition, I feel, because the mentality is very different, as well as the overall outcome of it. Yeah, yeah, like it's very much so like an accomplishment for them, and they feel if they feel proud about it, if they feel like I'm doing this for me, like as long as they're firm in it, it should be fairly healthy because it's a goal that they've set for themselves and they're doing it for themselves, and that feels good for them. That's awesome. It's when people are like, I'm going to do this thing, and they don't know why they're doing it. They're just doing it because people said so, like I did with college. you know, when you run into something like that, or you decide to make a decision about your life with just kind of that kind of motivation, not a whole lot of thought went into it, not a whole lot of internal reflection went into it, or critical thinking, you end up like kind of half-assing some stuff. Like it just doesn't feel quite right when you come out on the other end. And there's a lot of people, I think, that went into being priests and nuns and monks maybe because they didn't know what else to do, and maybe it doesn't necessarily align with them, but they didn't know what else to do, so it was kind of a solution that they grabbed for without, checking in with themselves and seeing what they wanted. And that's really important because your inner child will come and make all the ruckus for you if you don't check in on what you want. Your inner child will come out and be like, "Hey, you know, it'll be a whole thing." So it's really good to do that internal check with that inner child. I don't know if anybody else's is like a little space demon banshee like mine, but it It's a ruckus up there, let me tell you. And then let's see, what's the last one of Maslow's? I honestly think not a lot of people get the chance to get to this one. And I think some people have the, like Nova was saying, I don't think it works in the structure necessarily as well anymore. I think people have the ability to get to this one without needing the other things first necessarily. I think you can get here because it is within your spirit and your mind. So the self-fulfillment needs, so self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. So for me, self-actualization is really knowing yourself. That's how I define that. It's knowing yourself through to the core and having your frameworks in your mind and your systems of beliefs organized in a fashion that benefits and keeps you feeling good and keeps you feeling safe and steady and solid. And, you know, I think that it's ever changing too, and you can consistently self actualize throughout life. I think you can have repeated self actualizations. So, again, like Nova and I were saying, like this structure maybe not necessarily is applicable anymore, but all of these needs are still something people have. And when we can't meet the base ones, it's very hard to meet the other ones. It's not impossible, but it becomes difficult. All right, let's get rid of this ugly triangle. Yeah, be gone, be gone. Nova said, I'm pretty sure I don't have an inner child. Maybe as a side effect of aphantasia. Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me you deal with that too. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know, actually. I haven't done much research in that regard, like as far as shadow work and things like that for somebody with aphantasia. That would be interesting to think about, though. Definitely. I unfortunately do have an inner child, and they're very loud now. But they tend to get loud when you're not doing things that align with you, you know? Oh my gosh. There's a blizzard outside, and it's really bad and cold. Also, there's a blizzard. Oh gosh. Oh, I hope she can fix this leg today. Oh, pain without love. Oh, I'm just kidding. 3 days grace, a little early for 3 days grace, I think. Okay. Do people normally give mental health talks wrapped up in blankets? I don't know. We're starting it today, though. It's what's happening today. Nova said, I can't even actualize what a conscience would feel like. Oh my goodness. That's such an interesting way to think about living. Like, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, which is a good skill. I think everybody should try to do that as much as possible. Um, and that's crazy, man. But I can't imagine like your experience. I'd be so curious to see what it would be like. Yeah, conscience. I think my conscience is definitely a lot more bloodthirsty than it used to be. It's gotten pretty done with some shit and is like, you know what? Murder's okay over there. No. Sometimes. But I think that's good. I think it's just perspective and having good boundaries and being like, sometimes this is needed. And frankly, personally, I think that the whole point of this existence is that everything matters and nothing matters at the same time. So everything counts, even the weird, goofy stuff, you know? Nova said the blanket burrito has long been the health food of mental health. Exactly. Blanket burrito discussions. Hey, Voxy Lily, how are you? Howdy, howdy. Welcome in. But yeah, so what do we do? We've done Maslow's hierarchy, which is like a pretty baseline thing on mental health, I would say. Um, I could tell some stories in a very HIPAA confidential manner from my days in working psych, essentially working with psych and working in behavioral health. I have a lot of them. Or if that's not comfortable for people, we could start going into trauma-informed care and what that looks like and what trauma is and how that works in the brain. That's stuff I'm very well versed on and very happy to dive into. It's my special interest, some could say. Um, so I'm very passionate about it. Said, I'm Gucci. How are you? I'm pretty good. I'm chilly, obviously, but I'm good. How are you? We're doing our mental health day charity event, so I'm doing talks. Um, yeah, again, don't have a degree, but I am a certified residential counselor with trauma informed care. I'm a certified DSP, which is a direct service professional. I'm a certified BHP as well, which means I can work with kids. It's essentially like DSP, but for kids. Means I've worked with both children and adults in mental health capacity, behavioral health capacity. Both of those things are two different things as well. I did a lot more behavioral health and behavioral modification than I did necessarily like psych. But what my job was essentially doing CBT with people every single day, which is a lot of reframing, rewriting narratives, things like that. So I have a lot I could word vomit about, but it's really like what people are comfy with. A lot of my stories are not very happy stories, but I do have some happy stories, and I think that that's why I did it for as long as I did. Because I've gotten my fair share of phone calls from former clients who've, been like, "Thank you so much for helping me. Thank you so much. I got to do this with I have a new family now. I got to do this with them. I got to do this." And it's really, really rewarding. But, you know, it's good to keep that boundary too, because I think a lot of times as mental health workers, we fall into this little thing called a hero complex. And we don't let that be as healthy as we should. you know, Having a hero complex can look like a good thing a lot of the time. Wanting to help people, wanting to save people, so to speak. But you really got to be careful with your boundaries on that and make sure you're helping them in ways that they need and for the reasons that they need it. That's the most important thing, that you're not using it as another form of having some kind of power dynamic go on, or some form of control. Um, Really important to keep track of that. I certainly had a hero complex going into it and was able to kind of go through and reflect on that and be like, I need to be here for these people, not for me. And I need to make sure this isn't like a selfish thing that I'm doing. And I did a lot of work around that early on to make sure, because it was a concern for me initially. Um, I think it's really important to be super real with yourself too when you're like doing something and you're like, I don't know if this is good. This may or may not be good. Um, and it made me a better counselor at the end of the day, though. It made me a better with my therapy, and um, and I had more fun once I realized, like, once I was like doing it for them more, if that makes sense. Like, it's not so I can feel like I saved you, it's so you can feel like you saved you. Once I started taking that stance of like empowering people to save themselves, I just got hooked on that way of thinking and that way of being and feeling. Like if I didn't have a serious injury right now that I was dealing with and a crashed car and a bunch of other things, I would have totally been in cosplay today for for this one, and it would have been Bello Betty from One Piece, because her whole shtick is empowering people to fight for themselves and to find their own power and live their lives to the way they want. And that's like my whole life journey, I would say. Like, that's my driving force, is empower people to live the way that they want to live and be happy, and giving them, helping people realize their own power, I think, is my favorite thing to do now. And it's a really important thing for us helpers to remember, that that's what you're there for. is you're helping them find their power. You're not saving them from themselves. You're helping them find themselves and find the power within themselves to save themselves, because that's what actual good mental health work is, in my opinion. Is when you can send somebody off on their own and they can handle that shit on their own. You've given them the tools. That's all they need. Puppies! Best song ever. Thank you, Nova, for the One Piece. But yeah, like that's my passion in life, and I think that that's kind of where a lot of mental health people should kind of be, and I don't think it gets talked about enough in the system that we have currently, unfortunately. I worked with a lot of people that had a hero complex, and to be honest with you, I worked with a lot of people, sometimes like 6 foot tall, 200-pound people, who would have the hero complex when they were talking, but then when things got real and things got scary, they would be the ones running out of the building first and not helping and abandoning all their workers to the situation. So that's why it's super important to know why you're there, I think. One Piece mentioned. Yes, obligatory overtaken. Blurp. Must happen. Oh, there's so much snow outside. But that for me is like one of the big things that just does not get talked about enough in mental health. Not to mention that, well, this is kind of dark, but also something that doesn't get talked about enough, because we've privatized a lot of our mental health resources out here in this country. There's a lot of weird situations that go on where people kind of just house people. They don't really provide mental health services. They say that they do because they put the employees through all the training, but they don't actually provide the service. And they just kind of keep people alive in those facilities. Uh, and that's it. And that was kind of what I had to work in for a little bit. Um, and the people who own these facilities oftentimes own other things in town, like the funeral homes and, uh, other things that these people might end up needing down the road. Um, so there's a lot of like bad incentives in our mental health branches right now. Like for me personally, I know for a fact that the people who owned uh, the facilities that I worked at also owned the funeral homes around here and also owned like, a lot of other things. And there's a difference between actively doing therapy for somebody in a facility and keeping somebody alive. And when I worked for adults and in those facilities, that's all I was doing, straight up. I was just keeping somebody alive. I wasn't doing therapy. I was making sure they didn't end things that day, every day. Um, and that's a sign of like we failed, right? Mental health has failed. That is a failure of that facility. Uh, and it's just not good. Not good setup for incentives right now. And the more we get awareness out about that, the more people can kind of lobby, and hopefully we can start directing our laws a little bit towards things like that. It's just, it's not good. It's not good. Not to mention, most of the time, I think I worked 60-hour weeks for them most of the time. I did like one 70-hour week one time. And then after a while, I got in trouble for only working 60-hour weeks and that I should be doing 70, 80 like everybody else. Um, and that's kind of how they treat mental health workers. Like that's, and not to mention when you're in these facilities, you're going through high stress, crisis situations. People could be attacking you every day. You don't know, like physically attacking you, and you're expected to work 60 to or 70 to 80 hours. Um, like those are the working conditions of a mental health worker right now in my state. Like, not sustainable, right? Not not even able to take care of their Maslows, right? That doesn't work. That don't make no sense. But they are able to hold these facilities and keep these facilities like that because they have money and they own it and it's private. So treated like a business. Um, and those are a lot of things, a lot of changes I think can be made. A lot of changes. Um, every time we privatize something, we incentivize for predatory behavior, and we gotta figure out how to stop doing that. But we'll see. We're not gonna solve the world's problems probably today. But those are things that, some of the things I saw, just a small snippet into the system, unfortunately. But it's kind of neat because I have two ends of the spectrum on the system. So I worked at a really bad facility, which was that one that we just talked about. Really bad. Workers were in danger all the time. They put me, here's an example of a situation I got put in. They put me in a house with, I think there were 10 grown men who all had uh, mental struggles of some kind, and some of them were sexual in nature. Um, and they put me in a house full of them by myself for 14 hours to work with them. Thankfully, I'm very good at my job. I'm very uh, good with my words. That makes sense. I used to be called the wordsmith in the old residential sometimes. Um, so I was fine, and they were all my friends by the end of it. But think about that situation. I was probably 24 at the time, about as big as I am right now. you know? Um, not safe, right? On its surface, not safe. Um, not good. But then, I've also worked in a proper facility that's one of the best in the country. I've worked, I can say that apparently, because they would tout it all the time. They wouldn't shut up about it. That I have worked at one of the best mental health facilities in the country. Um, and got to experience a very different uh, kind of supporting people and way of doing therapy and all kinds of stuff. And it was very cool, like their rule was that nobody's ever by themselves with somebody. We had walkie talkies on us at all times. I had an alarm system on my belt. There were a lot of safety measures taken in this facility to make sure I was safe and that my staff were safe and that the kids were safe. That was the biggest deal, you know? Um, so it's just a really good look at how different things can be based on the resources that you have and the funding and who owns these facilities. Um, it's a really big deal that we kind of get a baseline on this and get a handle on it because we have a suffering population right now and we need to help people. Actually help people. you know? Apple said, "What the hell? Da, da, da. I'm sorry you were put in that situation." Yeah, it wasn't the wisest choice for sure on the company's part. Um, I certainly needed the money. I was making probably about $16 an hour at the time, I think, maybe. Um, might have been 13, honestly, but I can't remember. Certainly not enough to live, but it's nuts that we do that to our people, right? We do that to our American people for profit. It's just another example of the machine, unfortunately. But there are facilities out there like the one I got to work in that is actually doing therapy and actually turning out good work and actually saving people from falling into holes they can't crawl out of, falling into jail, you know? Like, and I feel really blessed to have been able to do that. I feel really, really grateful to have been able to be there and experience that. Um, we did a lot of CBT, a lot of trauma informed care. I got a chance to get really educated on stuff for myself and start reflecting on myself. I made friends for a lifetime. If I ever see any of my fellow managers again or buddies, we it's not the same necessarily as going to war for sure, but we act like army buddies a lot of the time because we've seen some shit together. And my buddy has come in for me when I've had somebody attacking me, and vice versa. Like I've gone in to back him up when it's needed to be done. Like it's a real thing. You go through the shit together and you feel it. Um, so I do definitely have like lifelong friends from that. I have all kinds of wonderful lessons and experiences from that. So there's two ends of the spectrum on how mental health facilities can function and how well they do and if they're actually even helpful. um, and yeah, it's interesting for sure. I had a we had a really cool structure at our facility because we had a lot of programs for the kids. It was very good because the school was on campus for them, so they lived on campus with the school. There was a farm that we all took care of and that they got to learn and take care of with teachers, and we would do that all the time. We would go on trips constantly. We go out bowling, we go out doing things because a big part of kind of doing reintegration into society is going out and having those experiences, like going out and getting to participate and go bowling with your friends on the weekend and going to the movies and learning the social skills you need to get through experiences like that. It's really important. Um, I guess I could that leads into trauma, so that works. And how that, oh god, why tailbone, why? Sorry. It's pinching me today. um so trauma essentially is it's a learned response. So it's your nervous system is going to be activated most likely in this learned response, which is what people are referring to when they say you're triggered or when you're having a trigger. It means that your nervous system's been activated. um, Much as that word gets thrown around like it's whatever, it's a real thing. You can really trigger somebody and put them into a nervous system response, and your nervous system response can look different depending on who you are. I know we have those like fight, flight, freeze responses. There's also fawn, I believe, that's been added to it. Uh, and dependent on what you went through originally, whatever it might be, wherever this trauma response is happening, um, when a big enough experience happens to you, and it can be an acute experience or it can be a chronic experience, and that's going to manifest in two different ways as well. Those are going to manifest differently. But when trauma occurs, when something traumatic happens near you, or you have some secondary trauma come your way, even, it's going to have an impact on the neural pathways in your mind, and it's going to build one. And the more powerful the experience is, the deeper the rut of that neural pathway is going to be, is the best way I can like explain it in like an imagery fashion. Um, so once you've built a neural pathway inside your mind's going to travel that path more and more. I like my best way to describe it, I guess, and the way I like to visualize it is like if you imagine like a field of grass, like a really big field of grass, really big field of wheat, right? And you got a machete and you're cutting through paths, right, to get through the grass. So when you're cutting through a path, say you have one path that you've cut through most of the way, kind of haphazard, kind of chopped through it, not really as easy to get through. But then you've got one path that you've just annihilated all that grass. You've annihilated all that wheat. It's all gone. It's a pretty clear pathway. You're probably going to take that one, right? What are you more likely to go down? You're going to go down the path that's actually clear. So sometimes these traumatic experiences can just burn a path through that's just real clear for our minds to go to this response every time. And the brain's a very simple little computing machine. So if it has enough elements of the previous traumatic situation that you went through that relate to that event that appear in front of it in current times, it will take that path immediately and respond to that in exactly the same way as you did the first time. So your nervous system will kick on. You will have a fight, flight, or freeze response to whatever that thing is, whether it still applies to the situation or not. It looks enough like it. It has enough of the features for your mind to come to that conclusion. You are going to go straight back to where you were when you were having that nervous system response, and you're going to have the response in the same way. And that's why sometimes we get triggered. That's what being triggered is I'm having the same response to a situation that is not currently occurring, but I am responding to it as if it were the same situation. That's trauma. That's how trauma works in the brain. And there's a lot of other things that happen when your nervous system activates. Your adrenaline spikes, which causes a bunch of other chemical responses as well. If you are a fight response person, which, hi, that's me, I can, speak on that probably the most because that is my response. When I am triggered, I will fight tooth and nail, and I'll fight you to the death about anything because, yeah. I got my own shit. We all do. But if you're a fight response, you're more likely to get angry. You're more likely to utilize the fear and transmute the fear. Ha, I got the word. Sorry. You're more likely to transmute that fear into anger as a defense. So if you get triggered like that, you're going to go towards anger. Now what happens when you're angry is that you lose about 90, everybody on average, your IQ goes down 90 points. So if you're starting way up here, even if you're starting way up here, you're going down 90 points in IQ. Period. If you're angry. As soon as anger comes into to play, 90 points. We've been able to figure it out on average. People drop about 90 points in IQ and cannot function the same. So you are going to be half there and very triggered, I imagine. like myself. If you have a freeze response, that adrenaline is going to cause you to freeze up, and you're going to feel like you can't talk, and you're going to feel like paralyzed physically. And it's a very physical experience, which is why I don't love when people are like, oh, you're triggered, when someone's just like, hey, that doesn't make sense, or someone's just like confused or something, or like trying to have a normal debate and conversation. I don't love people using the word triggered because you're not triggered. Your nervous system's not on. Your nervous system's not activated. No, you're not triggered. Sorry. You're just upset. It's different. Apple said, yes, 100%. Yeah. It needs to be used appropriately, in my opinion. Apple said, and thank you for helping me learn that. No worries. I think it's like a really important thing for everybody a distinction for everybody to know. Because, like, it's literally the definition of the word. Like, you're not actually triggered if your nervous system's not on fire, essentially. Rebel said, my brain's just a bunch of wires being detangled right now. Essentially, yeah, those neural pathways can be detangled. They can be rewired. You can carve out new pathways that are better and more positive for you, more positive responses to things, different systems. You can rebuild the systems within your own mind so that it's not reacting to those set of circumstances in the same way. Like, you have some more filtration options that can kind of go through and decipher for you. Right? Because the triggered response, the trauma response, is not a failure of the mind. That's not something's wrong with your mind. That's a normal brain adaptation. That's your brain working right. It's an adaptation for your safety. Your brain's doing its job. It's doing it right. It just doesn't know how to not recognize everything as the threat, and you need to help it discern what the threats actually are. It's honing the art of discernment within yourself, if you can. If you can do that. Harder to do than, most things. Jelly, hey! That is the perfect Perfect emote for right now. We are in the weeds about trauma and how it works in the brain. Jinx Nova. He said, perfect emote, Chelly. It is great. But yeah, those wires and those pathways can be detangled. They can be directed, and it can be done through a couple different ways. So the whole thing that helps you change your trauma response or helps you reform those systems so that that brain adaptation is actually working for you and not against you is through neuroplasticity. So I don't know if anybody's heard the term neuroplasticity. It's getting thrown around a lot. It gets thrown around a lot when we talk about psilocybin. I could go on about that if I wanted to. Trust me. um, but yeah, it goes into neuroplasticity, and that neuroplasticity allows you to kind of alter those neural pathways in your mind a little bit easier. And we have the most of it when we are young and we're kids and in our developmental ages, which is why we get a lot of our core beliefs and core identity developed when we're younger. Um, so the more neuroplasticity you have, the more you're able to reframe those pathways and direct them in a different direction, different reactions, different ways you want to exist in the world. That's what kind of gives you the power. Jelly said, I can't do much, but at least I have a decent comedic timing. Very decent. It was perfect. More than decent. It was perfect. It's awesome. But yeah, and a lot of people talk about neuroplasticity when they talk about things like psilocybin and like ketamine treatment and different things like that, because it increases the neuroplasticity in the brain without you having to, you just don't have to do as much forced repetition and remembering to repeat things, which is really helpful for people who are neurodivergent because we can't remember stuff. Recall is not our friend a lot of the time. Noah said, Happy Penguin Awareness Day, Charlie! Yes, Happy Penguin Awareness Day! And welcome to Brew Monday! It's me just jabbering on about mental health, pretty much. Mental health talk day. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Trauma-informed care. Good stuff. Hold on to your penguins, everybody. Hold your penguins today. They need the love. I think I still have my New Year's emotes up. Whoops. Maybe I should make a space penguin. They probably have penguins in space, right? A water planet somewhere, I'm sure. Shelly said the best day of the year. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're gonna make it the best day of the year. We'll make it happen. I think honestly, I don't know if anybody's ever tried it, but maybe the best way to deal with fascism is to just like act like it's no big deal. Like ignore it. Like just withhold attention. There we go. That's what we used to have to do actually in the facility. There we go. We brought it back to mental health. there's there's something called intentional withholding or intentionally withholding attention that you can do with people, especially when they're having attachment-seeking behaviors that are negative. You withhold attention and any kind of interaction from somebody who's trying to seek attachment with you in a negative form, and you wait for them to come do it in the ways that you framed it for them, and then they will come do it. So maybe if we just do that with all the fascists, like just withhold attention for a while, just be like, yeah, cool, all right, whatever you think. Yeah. They'll just be like, notice me. Oh. Noah said RJ needs a penguin cam to add to his animal cams. Yes! Yes, he does. Nova said the irony that withholding attention can also be a form of abuse. It's wild just how much an intent can change things. It is very true. It can definitely, like neglect and withholding attention, definitely be a form of abuse. 100%. They've actually found that neglect is probably one of the worst forms of abuse. It has the most impact on the brain. Overall, on average. But again, I can context and everything and subjectivity comes into play there. But data-wise, they've said that neglect has the most impact when it comes to different forms of abuse. And it can definitely be used like that, which is why I was trained to only use it in certain circumstances and with certain behaviors. I would not use it very often, but there were safety reasons sometimes too that it needed to be used. Sometimes engaging with somebody who is dangerous over and over again can cause a more dangerous situation to occur. And I was in a lot of dangerous situations, so it was very strategic whenever I had to do it. and, and it needs to be applied in that strategic manner. It shouldn't be being applied to somebody that needs support, you know? It should not be being applied to situations that do not hold the context for it, because then that's just being a neglectful, abusive person. And awful. Not okay. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think people misuse as well. Um, but yeah, it's effective against like certain behaviors, I would say. Not effective, not an effective parenting style by any means. Not an effective support style. It's not supportive at all. I find it to be very unsupportive. Um, if you're doing it to somebody that just needs maybe an ear or needs resources, like needs your encouragement, like context is everything. Context, context, context. Homies. Oh, I like this one. I like these headphones too. I'm grateful for Space Cowboy with this. This uh, this was a good Christmas gift. Um, because my music usually blares my ears out in the other headphones, and I don't know how to get the volume to not be crazy. And I usually have to have my headphones off my ears because of how crazy the volume on the music player is compared to everything else. And now I can just kind of hear my music and also hear my alerts and also not have a headache. And it's awesome. All right, quick headphone break from the trauma conversation. Shelly said, "Nice. What kind of headphones?" Ooh, they're called. Beep, beep, beep. I got the box. They're Steel Series. Nova 5s, actually. Nova. Arctis Nova 5s. Steel Series. Pretty nice. They're not the fanciest, but they are much fancier than what I was working with before, which was like $20 Turtle Beaches. Nova said, "So good, I put my name on it." Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. Nova said, "That'll be $18,233 for royalties, please." I'll get in contact with the Steel Series people. Exactly. Shelly said, "Nicely done, Space Cowboy." Yes, very grateful. Very grateful for that. He got me that and he got me another mouse, but I need to mess with the mouse because it's got like weird delay on it. I can't like do a full stroke across my screen, if that makes sense. Like it just doesn't have enough drag almost. It's weird. Jay, hey, how are you? Jay said, "Hola, hola, hola, Jay. How are you? Hola, ¿cómo está?" We've been talking about doing that more too, like getting back to our Duolingo and me relearning Spanish. I need to practice, really, is what it is. Space Cowboy wants to learn, and I need to practice, so we should be practicing together. Because I was bilingual at one point, like pretty much fully, and I need to get back to that. Um, Nova said, "Sounds like you need to change the sensitivity." Yeah, I think so. I think it's the sensitivity for it, and I need to mess with it. Jay said, "I am okay, just doing uni work." Ooh, I hope that's going well for you. I know there's a lot going on with that for you right now. Jay said, "I'll help you with Spanish, miss. I currently study it." Nice! It's a beautiful language. Noah said, "I know all the Spanish I need. Hola, soy Dora." Hola, yo soy Dora. Yeah, like I can certainly still order my carne asada burritos, but I do not have the quickness and the ear like I used to. Also, living in California helped a lot with that. Some places you have to know how to speak it if you want to get a taco. And if you want to get the good tacos, you better know how to speak it. That's all I'm going to say. I do think it's interesting that Dora has become a meme. But yeah, I was actually thinking about like watching kids shows. We were talking about watching Blue's Clues in Spanish to try to learn and remember. I just need to practice. Like honestly, if I'm not doing something regularly, I think I get skill regression pretty hard. I've been talking about that more with other people. Like I'm probably more on the spectrum than I thought I was. Um, but it's just like for me that just means like I need to be more structured for myself and like force some structure because I'm if I am ADHD, then I need to force the structure so that I can feel safe, essentially. Um, and the ADHD is going to fight the structure, but I need to learn how to let the like, eh, it's okay, it's okay. I know this is boring, but we got to do it. you know. Shelly said, I have this odd drive to learn German. Da, da, da. Maybe it's all the German metal I listen to. That would make sense. You should do it. Honestly, German, is it German, Spanish, and French? Those are all the romantic languages, I believe. So once you learn one of them, they all kind of work within a similar system. Um, and I've been able to understand quite a bit of French just from knowing Spanish. and and quite a bit of Greek too, actually, and Italian. I went to like a Greek graduation party one time, and I was pretty fluent in Spanish at the time because I was still living with my dad and my stepmom, and she was the one that I would speak Spanish with the most because she was from Mexico, and she would help me. Um, we went to like a graduation party, and I was like, and I could hear people talking in Greek, and I didn't realize they were speaking Greek, but I was like, this sounds like Spanish. Like I could understand what they were saying, but like some of the words were kind of funky, and I was like, huh, why do I why do I know what's going on? And then like, oh yeah, Greek is pretty close to Spanish. like apparently. Um is interesting. Or Italian. I'm unsure if it was Greek or Italian, but I was at a Greek graduation party. Um Shelley said German, the most romantic language of them all. right. right. All the shouting.